Yes, welcome to another edition of Cleanpin. This is your host, your amigo, your compadre Tom. We are not live. Unfortunately, this is pre-recorded, but I will be live next week. Next 2 weeks from now, I will be live. This is pre-recorded. Needed to get this out there quickly. I honestly just been having a hard time staying awake. After hours, you know, you put the kid to bed and you finish up on your chores after you're done with work and yada, 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 you fall asleep. So, do want to get into a couple of things on this podcast or videocast, whatever you may call it. And I thank you for checking in this podcast. Hit the like, notification bell, yada, yada, yada. It means a lot to me. We're going to be talking a lot. Going to give you Wrestlemania predictions. Other news and other news the last couple of weeks as far as wrestling goes, AEW, WWE, and Wrestlemania predictions. Really, just want to start off where a couple of diehard WWE fans were probably just laughing it up a little bit here when they heard supposedly, allegedly, what's been going on with allegedly MJF and Tony Khan. So MJF went on an interview with Ariel Hawaii. Ariel H, you know the guy. I'm sorry for butchering the last name. He does a lot of MMA interviews as well. WWE, AEW, and he was interviewing MJF, and MJF said that that he's going to wait pretty much until his contract rides out, which is January of 2024, January 1st, 2024. Before he makes any decisions where he signs. And that kind of brought up a little stir, and I believe the question was asked, let's say if TK decides to make you an offer, hey, let's get this out of the way here, this is what I'm offering for you, how about you resign? He said no, unless it's like godly insane money, then absolutely not. And a lot of the IWC Internet Wrestling community was taken aback by that. And, I tell you, listen, right on for MJF. Right on for MJF. The amount of money, now it's a different comparison, different ballpark when you start comparing hockey, basketball, football salaries, which is all insane for just the common Joe Schmo like me and you, right? But, wrestling too, especially with the TV deals that you have, the network deals that you have, the TV deals, network deals, merchandise, streaming services that you have nowadays for wrestling and apps and all that. It would be pretty foolish if you're, listen, a young dude like this guy right here, who right now has no family, no kids that I'm aware of. He's not married, single guy in his early, maybe just in mid-20s. He doesn't have any of that to worry about. He doesn't have a, insane amount of debt, I'm sure. And why not? Sometimes they say, listen, if you wait, like in sports, for example, right? Sometimes, like you have teams that want to give you a contract extension and you decide to wait it out and test the waters. Like, let's say Michael Conforto. We just found out that, Michael Conforto had a shoulder injury and he was being offered an insane amount of money by the Mets prior to that, and then he injures his shoulder in January, and now he's stuck without a team. So the amount of money that he was being offered, he still said no. Let me test the waters. Sometimes what happens, you do have that risk. If you're MJF, you get injured. and you know, you don't have that same money offered that you were being given. Who knows the high that you're on now as far as the crowd and reaction? They may get tired of you a year and a half from now, and what your worth is now might be a lot more different than a year a year and a half from now. It could be less. Then again, it could be more. But you're betting on yourself. And why wouldn't you bet on yourself? Especially if you don't have no other major responsibilities. Look, I could see a guy like why maybe Kevin Owens would extend. Resign before he could even really go to free agency. You have a couple of kids, you have a wife, you have a mortgage. It's a whole different ballgame. Each person's scenario is different than the next. And it is a business, right? And listen, AEW and WWE all take pot shots at each other. At the end of the day, it's a business. You might say that you hate a professional organization. You might hate WWE, you might hate AEW. But as soon as money comes a-calling, all of a sudden, let's forget I said that about them X amount of years ago. It was all in laughter, or it was all in ha-ha. So, again, more power to a guy like MJF. Test the waters. You're young. You have nothing to lose at this point. You realize it's a gamble, but that's a gamble that you're willing to take because you trust in yourself. Triple H recently has announced his in-ring, his retirement from in-ring competition, you know, after he had a health procedure done, a heart procedure done, rather. And, you know, it's an in-ring career that's been about 20 years, at least on TV, in front of an audience, probably even more when you factor in training and just even getting to the main point. And I'm not sure, you know, if he even was. I don't think how long he was on Indies even. But, you know, I don't know all the logistics of it, but it's a 20-year career. It's a 20-year career that is ended. And honestly, you know, I honestly thought that he was kind of retired. Being that he only wrestled, you know, on special occasions, maybe once, maybe twice a year, if even, maybe 3 times a year at most. Just thinking out loud, over the last couple of years, as he's been more of a backstage guy with NXT, which he's known for, which I think, you know, when you look at Triple H, it kind of like almost is divided into 2 sections. You're gonna have a lot of people that say that they hated him when he was a wrestler because it was always the Triple H show there. And it was the Triple H show, you know, for a good 3 or 4 year run there where he would be on multiple segments of Raw. First segment, last segment, a segment in between sometimes, a backstage. And he was on top. And for that, a lot of people say that they hated him, but they loved what he's done with NXT, bringing in a guy like Adam Cole, bringing in Fish, bringing in the various people that have come and gone through NXT, where it's been like the pure only wrestling type of crowd what they were flocked to. I was watching NXT. And they loved him for that. Others loved him both in his in-ring and NXT. So I think it's safe to say, no matter what side of the spectrum you are on, you appreciated Triple H. If not for his in-ring career, it is for his NXT career, producing it. So much so where, you know, people, you know, and see, when NXT came out with Triple H running it there, a lot of people forgot that it wasn't even meant to be like this like this separate entity, like this separate brand. It was really meant to be a just a backdrop or a minor league system, so to speak. But the talent that they had there was just overwhelming, and you might argue it's some of the better talent, even on the main roster. You know, guys, again, Pete Dunne, Ciampa, Riddle went through there, just some of these names. And that's all being recruited by Triple H. You look at Stevenson now. Gabe Stevenson, apparently this can't miss. The second coming of Brock Lesnar, so to speak, now. Teaming up there with Gacy. Can't miss. All just, you know, Braun Breaker. Just look how quickly Braun Breaker has rose up. So it's Triple H. He has his footprints, and a lot of people are thankful for Triple H. Randy Orton, just the other day, thanked Triple H for kind of showing him the ropes when he first came up, and that was, you know, he was giving of himself, was Triple H in Evolution. And back then, only Triple H was 30 years old. He has a mind for wrestling. That was at 30 years old. Orton said so readily that where he was at 30, as far as wrestling and psychology, is nowhere near, could not even compete with how far advanced of a wrestling mind Triple H had at that age. And, you know, Triple H is a lifer. I think he'll be around the WWE for a very long time, and he have his footprints. You know, as far as his in-ring wrestling career, I remember him early days from WCW. Then you remember him coming over to the WWE, and he was involved in that whole clique, the whole clique, MSG. And he was, after that, eating a shit sandwich for a while. But then he was up and running, eventually being in all the major storylines, Evolution, you know, his feuds with The Rock, with John Cena, with Austin are memorable. And Evolution, one of the factions that everyone gravitates to as being one of the best factions out there, even for that short period of time that you had on there. And everyone in that faction held titles. Randy Orton, Dave Bautista. It helped them grow into household names, Evolution. Even Ric Flair held the tag team title while in Evolution. So Triple H is, I guess, you have to be appreciative. DX, just being on the nerves of Vince McMahon. DX with Shawn Michaels, and you know, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn, and it just, he was in a lot of storylines that are memorable, some good, you know, like I just mentioned, and some bad, like Katie Vick. But he has had a mainstay. He has had a mainstay, and he's been in stories through most of our lives. And he had charisma. And that's why he was on TV, folks. You know, and for what it's worth, as much of a Triple H show that it was, a lot of people were over during that time frame. A lot of people were over. So you look at it, and again, you wish Triple H well in his retirement. I thought he was pretty much retired already, but now it's official, and you just wait to see what happens with Triple H now, coming forward in his recruitment of the talent and all the stars that you see on your TV screen. So I hope all is well. Triple H fans, Triple H, we thank you. And you have, Undertaker going into the Hall of Fame in other news as well, as this just completely fell the fuck down. Undertaker, is obviously a no-brainer. Once he officially made his announcement that he is retiring, that's no more. One could even argue that he could have even been put in, even prior to that. I know it's kind of not the way things are done. But, he was, for the most part, the last couple of years, he was only wrestling Wrestlemania. So the long-winded point I was trying to make is you could even make the argument that this guy was an instant Hall of Famer. As soon as he became a part-timer, you could have even just inducted him into the Hall of Fame at that point, right there and then. Just a one of the last remaining old school type of dudes out there, meaning he protected no matter where he was. He was always in character. Well, you might say to yourself, how are you going to be a dead man? How are you going to be a dead man in character? Well, he wore black, he wore the hat, or he wore variations of hat similar to that hat, long trench coats, and, very little to no emotion on the face expressed. And he was a larger-than-life character, what the WWE prides itself on now, as larger-than-life characters, which The Undertaker developed. And, this was done, a character that withstood the test of time. It was done, by not doing flashy moves, because he was supposed to be a dead man. He was supposed to be a guy that you feared, a guy that you did not cheer. It's kind of hard to do that if you're doing flashy moves. You don't want the crowd cheering you. So all the moves that was part of his arsenal, and he even said so, that he had those arsenal of moves, but he had to get rid of it in his repertoire because he was a dead man. How many dead mans you see flying around in the ring? And, you look at an Undertaker match, just like a lot of the old school, just like a lot of the greats have, an Undertaker match, and it has a lot of ring psychology to it. There's a lot of psychology, a lot of storytelling inside of an Undertaker match that you just revel at. And it's telling a story inside the ring is something that is lacking from a lot of wrestling nowadays. There's some that still are able to tell a story, but it's far and few between. And the story, you might argue, you might say, even started even before he got into the ring. The story started as soon as he left the curtain. The intimidating, the long, slow walk, intimidation. And they would pan into his opponent's eyes, the opponent in the ring, and the opponent just looks scared. Of course, have you ever seen an Undertaker entrance down the ramp? Intimidating from the get-go. Methodic, slow, deliberate, expressionless face. And he was able to uphold it in and outside of the ring for all those years. And it made it work. Where it came to a point, even though there would be times that he was playing a bad guy, a heel, the crowd would still cheer him. Because he was just that damn good. And you hear stories about him being the locker room leader. A guy that cares about the business. A guy that would just not leave after his match and go, hop on and go elsewhere. But he'd stayed behind and be the locker room leader, give advice to younger talent that needed it. Now, let's not forget either that there, Undertaker, yes, he did have some help along the way. He had, which very integral part. As much as you might, my opinion anyway, as much as the Undertaker you might think did not need a mouthpiece, I think that a mouthpiece and Paul Bearer, and he was more than just a mouthpiece. He was a part of the Undertaker character. But it was important to have a mouthpiece, a manager like Undertaker, because he would take the mic and say words on behalf of the Undertaker, which sometimes just standing there expressionless or motionless or intimidating necessarily would not do the job. Kane played a part in the Undertaker as well. He played a part in adding in another level of what a vicious guy this was. He burned his whole family, burned his baby brother. Baby brother is the only one that survived. And then they were able to flip it where Undertaker was then looked upon as being vulnerable on behalf of Kane down the road. So Kane was also able to show the vulnerable side of the Undertaker. And then, the Attitude Era came, and, you hear about the Undertaker kind of realizing, and this is good fruition and good foresight and good adaptability as well. He was able to kind of reinvent the Undertaker character into the American Badass character version of the Undertaker, where it was during the Attitude Era, and, he realized that he would need to cut some promos as all these other guys, The Rock, Austin, Triple H, they were all cutting promos, and can't be a dead guy and not be able to cut promos, go outside the box. And he was able to reinvent himself as the American Badass and do it so where he was still able to jump when the time was necessary, to jump back into old school Undertaker. So he was able to keep the old character still in the back of our minds, and his new character was able to get over as well. He had the WrestleMania streak, which was a thing of beauty. And looking on the flip side of it, would you have given? Would the streak would that have been broken? Would that need to have been broken by Brock Lesnar? Did Brock Lesnar need to break the streak, or could it have been broken by someone young and someone that was up and coming? Where breaking the young streak you could have established someone right off the bat. That could be talked about. That could be debated. But you could make the argument, could make the point that no one for all those years was able to beat The Undertaker except a badass like Brock Lesnar. And The Undertaker has faced many badasses, but he has lost to the badass of the badass on WrestleMania, if that makes any sense. It's a career that has lasted a long, long time. And growing up as a kid, I remember myself watching The Undertaker come down ever since he was introduced, I believe it was in Survivor Series by Ted DiBiase back in, what, 92, I believe, or 91, somewhere around there, initially managed by Brother Love. It's just a fear that The Undertaker would install, and it just lasted for decades and decades and decades. The one guy that has never flipped and left, one of the guys, Shawn Michaels is another guy, that has left the WWE. The Undertaker going into the Hall of Fame, and rightfully so. And now, as we get into WrestleMania predictions, trying to give you a brief, synopsis. Not too wordy. Thank you for bearing with me so far. And again, please do subscribe. It means a lot to me. Where do we go? Omos versus Bobby Lashley. This one is a very tricky way to... this one is I think WWE has kind of got themselves into a corner with this one. Not necessarily a good corner. The almighty Bobby Lashley. That's all that you hear about. The almighty Bobby Lashley. Built this guy up like a monster right before he got injured. A monster. And you've come a long way where now people are actually starting to cheer Bobby Lashley. Dare I say, at one particular point there in Bobby Lashley's run, and him being with MVP was probably a great thing there. Now, in this point of his run, he's actually being cheered. On the other quarter, unfortunately, I don't know why they did this. Omos, they built him up to be this monster, correct? But he really does not have a personality besides that. We just know that he's a monster and just growls and just hurts you physically very, very quickly. I think they just kind of rushed the separation of AJ Styles from Omos a little bit too quickly. And now it's like, what happens if he was going to lose? The one thing that he had that made him indestructible was his fear, or the fact that he was so dominant. Now, if you lose that dominance, then what do you have for poor Omos? Just being a giant that's now vulnerable without a character. Are the fans still going to care? And having Bobby Lashley lose, what happens then? To protect both, I am just going to go out on a limb here, and I don't know which way it's going to go. You cannot have Omos lose. You really can't. I just think it's going to end as a double count out. Both of them are outside of the ring, just knocking each other down, hitting each other, both of them. Then again, does that really... Either way, this is going to hurt Omos, and it's going to make him vulnerable, I think, either way. Let's go double disqualification. for Omos versus Bobby Lashley. Next up on the card there, we have Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. Austin Theory, the chosen one of Vince McMahon, right? The gem, the personal protege of Mr. Vince McMahon. Some tough love by Mr. Vince McMahon. The guy that loves the selfies, Austin Theory. He's been on a bit of a winning streak there, hasn't he? He has beaten the Intercontinental, or was it the U.S. champion? One of the belt holders, Finn Balor, recently, amongst other things. And there you have Pat McAfee, who, although is not a pro wrestler, he has definitely earned his keeps or earned his respect from the locker room with what he did with Adam Cole, baby. A match that I think, looking on it, not really talked about, but a match that could definitely surprise people. I think it will definitely surprise people. Will Pat McAfee have a kind of a showing like he did on NXT TakeOver? I don't know. That's kind of hard to follow for your first act, and I think it also depends on who you have in the ring with you. You can't compare Adam Cole to Austin Theory. No disrespect to Adam Cole. I mean, no disrespect to Austin Theory. But Pat McAfee, I think, is not going to embarrass himself. That's for sure. And neither is Austin Theory. But, you know, I could see this ending in kind of a, let's say, a way where Austin Theory is, because really in hindsight, what does this do for Pat McAfee, right? When Pat McAfee is still pretty much the best thing as far as commentating. Doesn't diminish his commentating skills with a loss, because he's not looked upon as a wrestler. McAfee, if Austin Theory loses to an announcer, even though a semi kind of wrestler, that's looked upon negatively for being the protege of Mr. McMahon. So how I feel that it goes is being cheap, sneaky, kind of clusterfuck. Austin Theory pulls out the win after pretty much cheating. And we follow that up with he's trying to take a selfie of his victory. McAfee comes to and beats him up a little bit, and the fans go crazy and happy. How about that? So we have Austin Theory winning cheap clusterfuck type of a way, tries to take a selfie, and Pat McAfee comes to, kicks him around, gets the taste out of the gets the bad taste of the loss out of his mouth, gets the crowd all excited, and I guess the crowd goes or stays happy that Pat McAfee got the last word, so to speak. Yes, we have taken Cleanpin on the road. Looking at the matchup between Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair, man, I don't know what happened. Listen, do not get me wrong. I was initially just really hyped up about this match. I don't know, it just kind of has fallen flat And don't get me wrong, you know, Ronda Rousey has not been on TV for quite some time. I did not forget who Ronda Rousey was. I just hope the audience watching did not forget who Ronda Rousey was. It seems like, you know, her promos initially, when she first came, you know, her first run here with WWE, were out of the ballpark. Outstanding. And her recent promos selling this match has just fallen flat. It's like she's almost forgotten to cut a promo. Now I know the wrestling, her in-ring work speaks for itself. It's not that bad, actually. It's pretty good, pretty believable. But I don't know, it just seems... and I really don't have any like feelings about this match. It just seems that it's fallen flat, honestly. This matchup of the build up, the potential that it could have been, has just fallen flat to me. Yes, there were some harsh words being thrown back and forth, but it just, again, has fallen flat. I don't know, maybe Ronda Rousey is not into it, maybe Charlotte Flair is not into it, maybe both of them are not into it. And man, I really hate to root for Charlotte Flair on this one. I just don't see Ronda Rousey sticking around. I'm maybe going to take some time off again. Maybe that was the deal. Maybe that was worked out. I don't know. I see Charlotte Flair winning this cleanly. Bray Wyatt versus Bray Wyatt. Let's talk about him a little bit there. It was on my mind, so not Bray Wyatt, but Kevin Owens versus, not versus, Kevin Owens having a KO show, and you're going to have special guest Stone Cold Steve Austin. Now, I will tell you that this was that Kevin Owens has done a damn good job, very applaudable job of putting this thing together, of selling the hell out of this. You know, I worry a little bit, but again, I think this is a name that transcends generations to generations. Like, I'm sure, like, people my age, like, we're in our 40s now, right? I'm 41. Passed down to our kids. Oh, this is Stone Cold Steve Austin, one of the greatest. So I think Stone Cold Steve Austin is one of those type of names that goes from generation to generation and is a name that is known. So it does not have to be worried about. And I think both of them sold it perfectly. Stone Cold Steve Austin, the fearless ass kicker, the guy that just whips ass, said, listen, that he's going to open up one last can of whoop ass. So he's going to be a guest on the Kevin Owens show, and they're saying that this is like supposed to be like the main event on Saturday. Now, from what you hear, dirt sheets indications, you know, that he's been training, been taking this very seriously. He hasn't, you know, he's retired 19 years ago at this point, a hell of a long time now. I believe he's approaching his mid-50s. So it's definitely a different Stone Cold than when he retired. I don't think, you know, I think how this is hyped, I think what you will expect to see is just initially an interview and then just a brawl that goes throughout all of AT&T Stadium. There will not be no winner. There will be no loser, as this is not a match. You know, basically a street fight. Make Austin look, you know, protect Austin, make him look strong. At the same time, make it look believable. And, you know, they're going to fight, throw some cans around, throw some chairs around, be some comedy type of comedy action in there as well. And you know, you're gonna see you're gonna see Kevin Owens laying out with a stunner, right? I don't expect this to be, maybe I expect this to be you know, mostly an interview, then brawl, last couple of minutes type of a deal, to kind of just heat this whole thing up. But what else more can you expect from Steve Austin? You're not, you know, it's been so long, and it's all right. I mean, you're not gonna expect to see wrestling holds. This is just gonna be a brawl throughout AT&T Stadium. You know, maybe go into an office, maybe see a I don't know, a Dallas coach getting ready for the season, and you know, some hot dogs being thrown. That's what you're going to be seeing. It's just going to be for nostalgia purposes, just seeing Stone Cold brawling for one last time. Becky Lynch versus Becky Lynch, the Beckster, versus Bianca Belair. If you've been following the storyline, I think this has been a build-up. It's been a build-up. Where, you know, Becky Lynch has been questioning the fortitude, the intensity of Bianca Belair. How badly does Bianca Belair want it? Good girls finish last, right? So goes the saying. And she, you know, and Becky is, you know, of the mindset, telling Bianca Belair that she cannot hang. That Bianca cannot hang with her. That Becky is on a different level in the ring, and most important, mentally as well. And that storyline has been culminating into a matchup at WrestleMania. And you've seen it kind of reach its pinnacle when Bianca Belair just goes for the scissors after they're brought in to the ring by Becky, who was trying to cut off Bianca's hair. It backfires, and now Bianca Belair has the scissors and snip, snip, snip on Becky Lynch in last week's SmackDown. That's the intensity, the mean streak that Becky Lynch says that Bianca Belair does not have, which is needed to win the championship. Guess what? Well, she did see it this past week on last SmackDown. What will happen at WrestleMania? The culmination. You're at the peak. I'm sure Becky Lynch now knows that Bianca Belair is on her level, intensity-wise, mentally. I think you're going to see a new champion. You're going to see a new champion in Bianca Belair defeating Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch had a nice ride as a champion, but here it is. Here is Bianca's revenge for losing the title in a matter of seconds. She's shown Becky Lynch that, you know, by cutting her hair, that she is fierce and that she is ready and that she could hang with anyone. Maybe do we even see a mutual sign of respect at the end of the match? Bianca wins, extends her hand. Or rather, Bianca wins, Becky extends her hand. Congratulations, champ. And then slaps her in the face. Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin. You know, I am a big fan of the Happy Corbin gimmick. I love it. I find it hysterical. Honestly, I do. It makes me chuckle. It makes me laugh. Happy Corbin, he's always winning. I don't think he's winning against Drew McIntyre today. We kind of have seen it leading up to Mad Hat, Mr. Mad has been kind of a little bit in odds with Mr. Corbin, and Mr. Mad is gonna try to help Mr. Corbin in some way. It backfires. Mr. McIntyre wins. That leads up to Mr. Corbin. Looks like being split up from Mr. Moss, and I don't know why. Hopefully this group stays around. I find them hysterical. A lot of people find them annoying. Well, guess what? That is the job for them to be annoying with Madcap. But I see it's going to be Drew McIntyre defeating Happy Corbin. Madcap tries to interfere, tries to help Happy Corbin. It backfires. There's your winner, Drew McIntyre. We're also going to have Rey and Dominic Mysterio versus The Miz and Logan Paul. Miz always seems to have these celebrity matches. That seems to be his thing during WrestleMania, which is fine and cool and dandy. You know, he's a guy that you could put at various spots in the card, and he's just he's comfortable doing that. He could do a little media, and he's very versatile. Whatever role WWE gives him. So here he's working with Logan Paul. And Logan Paul, I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised. I did see a sneak peek video of him, like Logan Paul training with The Miz. And granted, sneak peek video, they're only going to show you the best of the best highlights. But based on what The Miz said, he's taking this naturally as far as the training in Logan Paul. And that wouldn't come a shock to me. He's been boxing. So you know that he's an athlete. He has, I'd imagine he does have the conditioning necessary to do this. Social media presence. So I'm sure maybe some few Logan Paul fans will be taking their peek on what he's doing on the Peacock Network on, WrestleMania, buying the pay-per-view. So I'm sure WWE has achieved that goal. And they're going up against Rey and Dominic Mysterio. And, Rey and Dominic, they get to be on the WrestleMania card, former tag team champions, and which is cool, father and son duo. And they're working together, which is something I'm sure Rey Mysterio has wanted to do. But I really don't see the appeal, the coolness factor of Rey and Dominic. That's so sweet being together as father and son. It's kind of worn. It's worn out on me, and I need something here to happen, something to kind of just turn this around. There were inklings of a heel turn on Dominic's end when he was when Buddy Matthews or a Buddy rather, formerly of WWE, was in his ear, and Sami Zayn was in his ear. So we've seen glimpses and teases of a heel turn. I'm hoping for a heel turn, or at least start of a heel turn. That way the slow burn can develop into a bigger payoff where the Mysterios are split, and it's time for Dominic maybe to kind of go away from under the shadow of his father. So give me Logan Paul, give me Miz to win. Give it to me by accident, or actually give it to me clean, where Rey Mysterio interferes, causes Dominic to be clocked. Dominic sees the lights, pinned by Logan Paul. And that kind of enrages Dominic. He goes after his father, gives him a shove, and we left in suspense. Queen Zelina Carmella versus Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley versus Natalya and Shayna Baszler versus Naomi and Sasha Banks for the Women's Tag Team Championships. It could go either way. Plain and simply, I just see Carmella and Queen Zelina losing here. I think we're going to go in the route of Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley as your new champions there. Carmella and Queen Zelina had their run, but Carmella's too busy, being Carmella. I think, you already, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley already have a tag team name. They're all setting them up. Honestly, I just, it's been mostly what's been focused on is Carmella and Queen Zelina not getting along. That's been really the focus in all of this. Could they keep up the continuity? I don't think so. Just going to go with my gut here. Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley winning. Seth Rollins versus To Be Determined. And man, this has been a lead up. And this is probably one of the bigger surprises. And in that you hope that WrestleMania maybe has some surprises or two. But you really, I think the surprise on this one, on who it's supposed to be, has been circulating, has been expected the last 3 or 4 Raws already. And WWE is just teasing us all along, just dangling that little carrot. And that TB determined, I think it's Cody Rhodes. And Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes, I did not think, and this is kind of like a Hardy Boys type of a surprise, and like they did a few years ago. And I think they've kept Cody Rhodes hidden, trying to do the best. There have been already reports, of course there have, that they've seen Cody Rhodes in the airport. Cody Rhodes is who everyone wants to see, right? And I'm kind of shocked if in fact it is Cody Rhodes. I thought, Cody Rhodes, one of the founders of AEW, the way it was unfolding, would be there for a very long time. The foundations have been barely even set, or barely even have settled, and he's already left. Apparently, and that's for another video or another day, and I'm sure we'll find out the truth eventually down the road. But apparently, Cody did want to kind of have a say in the booking, or at least that's what he was promised, and it was taken away from him. And he's on to newer and different ventures, wanted a whole lot more money than what AEW apparently was looking to pay. And here he is. And I think, with Triple H here, how you see how he mended fences with Bruno Sammartino, the Ultimate Warrior. Heck, even the Steiner brothers are being inducted. Him and Scott Steiner, how about that? With Triple H there, I think he's able to kind of extend the olive branches, mend the fences. And that's one of, I think, the gifts of Triple H, plus past his in-ring career, as we talked about Triple H earlier in this video podcast here thing. I think Cody is going to be treated, honestly, despite all the memes that you see out there, he's not going to get the Stardust treatment. He's going to be treated like the real deal. He's a Rhodes son, and I think they, as time goes on, I think you're going to see Cody Rhodes have more and more say in the company. That's just my prediction, based on, the history of, who his father was, and the history that his father had with NXT, and, things along that line, that nature. I could see, offenses have been made. Some time has passed since Cody was here. And, I think it's going to be Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins, how the match unfolds. I don't know. I don't know if he comes in here as a face, as a heel. I would expect it to be as a face. Maybe Shane McMahon gets involved in some way. I don't know. Maybe he's the first opponent, and it's a quick match where Seth Rollins wins 1, 2, 3, and the fans are booing now, and they're pissed off. They expected Cody Rhodes, and boom, out comes Cody Rhodes to face Seth Rollins, destroys Seth Rollins in a quick-minute match. Seth Rollins goes crazy off the deep end. Something to that regards. But I think when you see Cody Rhodes, you will see all the pomp and circumstances, and he'll be treated a lot differently than when he was first here. I think he proved his worth since he left WWE. So, again, with this match, I do think Cody Rhodes will win. It will be a quick, maybe a roll-up type of a deal. Type of a quick type of a match, just to kind of like he surprised Seth Rollins and took advantage of that surprise type of a deal after Seth Rollins defeats Shane McMahon quickly, and the crowd boos and all that, and WWE is trolling, and out comes Cody. That type of extent, and I see how that match unfolds. The Warrior Award recipient is Shad Gaspard. Shad Gaspard, we remember from Crime Time. Very entertaining tag team. I could see it being, obviously, JTG inducting him. MVP inducting him. A combination of guys, his wife, his child. The Warrior Award, I think you just might as well make Shad Gaspard a award every year at WrestleMania season. Shad Gaspard Award for courage, bravery. The Warrior Award was really meant to be for people in the back. If you remember the speech that the Warrior made, and I think that's kind of the WWE took their own version of what Warrior said and spun it this way. But hey, listen, Shad Gaspard Award. You hear, I'm sure there are millions of stories like this, but it really kind of hits home when you actually, you've seen the guy in front of your TV and you could relate to him, you rooted for him, you booed him. Obviously, no-brainer statement by me by saying that the man deserves the award. The man lost his life. That is a true hero in every sense. And you just kind of you wonder, and you just, by wondering and you think about it, you get sick. You get physically sick. 1 minute there he is, just going out to the beach, enjoying a day with his son. Then they're going out by the water. Next thing you know, there's a rough current, and he's panicking. He's trying to help his son, save his son. Let's go get my son first, then get me. And the panic that he has, worrying about his son, and then the panic that he is feeling, trying to save himself from drowning in those seconds. You hope that it's quick, because it's just really, and hopefully before he passed, maybe in the distance or somewhere, he was able to hear that his son was saved. Hopefully he knew that before the current took him away. Because it's a horrible, sad way to go, and you worry about his son now. And I'm sure his son has a support system, but losing a parent is so at a young age, and you know, as a child, you want your parent to be there for your milestones, your first Little League home run, your first, you know, you get your first car, your license, your marriage, birth of your kids, and his father is not there. I mean, I'm sure their father figures in his life, but it's nothing like having your father. So, you know, listen, there should be your own reward for the Shad Gaspar Memorial Award. And you wonder why they didn't do it last year, kind of when it was a fresh story. I don't know. Maybe because it was too fresh and they didn't feel comfortable to doing it that year, and you know, maybe the people in the Shad's family just needed time to breathe. That could be it. But just the courage that Shad Gaspar had, and the man himself, rest in peace. And just you know, a sad story. Way young, you know, a year older than me, and you know, definitely gave us a lot of memories with Crime Time as well. And well, we have transitioned into the nighttime for Cleanpin, your wrestling podcast here on From the Bleachers Sports Show. Riddle versus Alpha Academy versus Street Profits. Here, I'm torn. And I know I need to make a prediction. But man, I have been such a fan of Gable. He has really turned it on, I think, in the last year. He has made it work with a catchphrase such as, "Thank you! Thank you!" And what was the other one? Swoosh! Was that it? And, you know, the Alpha Academy with Otis there and, you know, Chad Gable, really, like I mentioned, has turned it around. And I just hope that they don't get lost here, and that they're not forgotten about. RK Bro, I know that they have their worth. They're a fan favorite. Riddle, like Randy Orton. Next matchup we see is Shinsuke Nakamura versus the Usos. Uso Penitentiary. You know, with the Usos, and I think it's just... You okay, buddy? With the Usos, and I don't think it's nothing of their fault. You really, like, you know, they're a tag team, right? But they've just been so much involved. You like that word, entrenched, right? With the Roman Reigns storyline, more like them being like backups or lackeys, that you almost forget that they are a tag team. They, in actuality, are more involved in the Roman Reigns stuff than actually fighting tag teams on SmackDown. Am I right? Or is it just my imagination? Just my imagination. I kid. So, this, you know, and you like the dynamic of Boogs and Shinsuke Nakamura that they have going there. But I just don't think near. I just think it's the bloodline that's, as far as the Usos, that are gonna reign supreme. This kind of just seems like this was a tag team just put together to kind of pass the time. You know, to give the Usos for something for them to do. Listen, they could definitely put up an entertaining match. And you know, I just feel that it's going to be the Usos still your world's champions. It will be Sheamus and Ridge Holland versus New Day Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. This is purely going to be, you know, a lot of I think the storyline behind this is, no shock here, it's retribution for their fallen compadre, the fallen amigo, Big E. Lucas, who do you think's gonna win? Do you think Big E? Do you think the New Day or Sheamus and Ridge Holland will win? Sheamus and Ridge Holland. Okay. I think it might be New Day. Yeah, because they beat up. Sheamus and Ridge Holland beat up Big E, and Big E is hurt, so they need to get back at him. That's where I see it going. And who doesn't like a New Day celebration with pancakes and everything else that they throw? So I do see it being as New Day. You're gonna see, you know, a good matchup. Sheamus is a veteran. You know, Kofi, veteran. Xavier Woods, veteran. They're gonna put up an entertaining match. Look for that as well. In that range too. Don't know what to expect. You're gonna have it. I'm really not into this match. You're gonna have it 1, 2, 3. I think it's gonna be a quick. It's gonna be a quick match with Johnny Knoxville, Sami Zayn. You know, I think Johnny Knox goes over. Of course I did, handsome. Let me get you some tissues here. So yeah, I think in that regard you're gonna have Sami Zayn is gonna lose, but that's all right because he's Sami Zayn, and he can afford a loss. It won't hurt him at this point the way his character is.
Hey, there was somebody behind us.
I know, buddy. The way people drive now is very scary indeed. Nonetheless,
that guy was nice.
Yeah, it was nice. Believe it or not honking at us. So I do think that it will be, you know, Sami Zayn takes the loss. Johnny Knox does the surprise on Sami Zayn, gets a one-up, kind of like a comedy fodder type of a match. You know, almost like a...
I need a tissue.
Coming right up, buddy. Kind of almost like a slipping on a banana peel. That type of an aspect. I mean, what more can you really do? I don't see this match being nearly as athletic as it is with that would be between Mysterios and Miz and his partner there was just completely slips me to right now. So I don't see it being nearly athletic. This is just your type of a match that will be comedy fodder, kind of a break after a traumatic match that you have emotionally spent. Yep. So I do see Johnny Knox picking up the wheel. Yeah, that was a nice guy. Here we go. Finally, Edge turned heel a couple weeks ago for this WrestleMania matchup. We have a face, AJ Styles. I like this new reincarnation of Edge. Kind of changes it up a little bit here, kind of going into almost like a variation of his Brood character, only more kind of was the word I'm looking for. More diabolical, more detailed, a little more like an older version of, you know, just being very sinister and being very methodical. And I'm interested to see what that character has. I'm interested to see the involvement of that character. I'm sure it will take, you know, I'm sure it will continue to develop after WrestleMania. I think he'll be on our TV. The rumor and the news is that, you know, possibly a new stable will be formed, new kind of stable with Edge that's formed, kind of in the rumored word is Damian Priest. So I could see kind of where that character, if let's say it is with Damian Priest, kind of where that character might be going towards, if I were to speculate. And it's a dark, sinister Edge, and I expect Edge to be dark and sinister versus his match against AJ Styles. I think this is going to be a slow, methodical match, a lot of storytelling, which they're both good at, a lot of twists and turns, a lot of highs and lows. It's been very, I think this story, if it was had time to maybe develop more, if it was mentioned more on, you know, on Raw, just given a little bit more time, I think a lot more people will be talking about this match. I don't think a lot of people are talking about this match. And I think when everything is all said and done, a lot of people will be very surprised by this match. I think, you know, with what has been going on, you might even make a case that AJ is on a bit of a slump here. That, you know, maybe AJ needs this win. Does he get this win? I don't think so. I think he loses out to Edge. Now, we've been hearing about Brock, this new Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar in gorilla position, you know, giving out pointers and giving out advice. Who would have thought you would have seen this type of a Brock? A lot of us maybe had the wrong impression of Brock. You go out there and you watch Brock nowadays, it seems like Brock is having the most fun that he's ever had. Cowboy Brock, cutting probably one of the best promos that you have ever seen before. And that's without the help of Paul Heyman. Might even make the argument that he doesn't even need Paul Heyman at this point. I know, let's pump the brakes a little bit here, Tom. But been very impressed by Brock Lesnar. Probably one of his greatest runs. And probably one of the best reincarnations that we've had of Brock Lesnar. And the storyline between him and Roman Reigns has been one of the best storylines. And it seems that just when Roman Reigns thinks he put away Brock Lesnar, yet again, Brock Lesnar appears. Roman Reigns thought that he had Brock Lesnar down when he took his advocate away from him. It didn't work. Now, Roman Reigns is on the cusp of trying to combine both belts, being the undisputed leader of both brands. I like the little description that Brock Lesnar said on SmackDown a few weeks ago. But Brock Lesnar, I just do not see Brock Lesnar winning this at all. To make it, you know, I think WWE is going where they wanted to go a few years ago, and they had to take a detour. They had to take a detour after they seen the booing that Roman Reigns received when his hand was raised by The Rock in Philadelphia. They took a little detour. They kind of had their hand forced by Roman Reigns and readjusted the character. And now, once they've seen the readjustment, now they're going to go full steam to get where they wanted to go. They just took the scenic route. And where they wanted to go is they wanted to make Roman Reigns the face of WWE. With this win, and Brock Lesnar might be pinned in the middle of the ring clean. Or maybe by trip of the leg or something to that regards. But I still think Brock Lesnar will be pinned. And Roman Reigns now, his reign will continue. And he will be the face that WWE wanted him to be. The most dominant champion in world in recent history. I think Roman Reigns will win this. That's it for your WrestleMania predictions. It's going to be a hell of a show. Cannot wait. Guys, enjoy it. This is what we look forward to every year. We'll talk about it very, very soon. Peace.